Nobody was prepared for what happened next. Not the fans. Not the industry. Not even the people who thought they'd already seen every possible internet meltdown imaginable. Because when Joe Rogan and Andrew Schulz finally let one sentence slip about Charlie Kirk's family, it didn't land like a comment, it landed like a detonation. A clip that was supposed to be just another casual podcast moment suddenly turned into the most replayed, dissected, and argued over piece of audio online, and people swear you can actually feel the energy shift when it happens. 1 second they are laughing. The next second, the room goes cold. Joe's tone changes. Andrew stops smiling. And the internet. The internet absolutely loses its mind. What made it terrifying wasn't what they said outright, it was what they didn't say. The pause. The looks. The way Andrew freezes like he knows he's standing too close to something dangerous. Fans immediately sensed it. This wasn't comedy, this wasn't politics. This was something personal, something buried, something people weren't supposed to touch. Within minutes, Twitter was on fire. TikTok exploded with slowed-down clips and wild theories. Reddit threads hit thousands of comments an hour. Everyone is asking the same question. Why does this feel bigger than drama? Insiders started whispering. Old clips resurfaced. Deleted posts reappeared as screenshots. People who'd been silent for years suddenly liked one comment, then disappeared again. And just when fans thought they'd figured out the angle, a new rumor twisted the entire story sideways. Because according to people watching closely, this wasn't about exposing Charlie Kirk. It was about exposing what's been hidden around him. And once you hear what Joe and Andrew allegedly noticed, you'll never watch those clips the same way again. The moment that clip escaped the studio, it didn't behave like normal content. It didn't slowly circulate. It didn't wait for commentary channels to pick it up. It tore through the internet like it was alive. Within minutes, people weren't just sharing it, they were studying it. Zooming in on Joe Rogan's eyes. Slowing down Andrew Schulz's reaction frame by frame. Replaying the pause between words like it held a code nobody had cracked yet. Because something about that exchange felt wrong in the most intoxicating way possible. Not reckless. Not accidental. Intentional. And what made it unbearable was how casual it all started. No dramatic build-up. No warning. Just two voices millions trust slipping into a tone they only use when they are standing at the edge of something dangerous. Joe doesn't raise his voice. He never does when he's serious. He just leans in slightly, drops his cadence, and suddenly everyone knows this isn't a joke anymore. Andrew's grin fades, not exaggerated, not for show, but like someone who just realized the room has ears. Fans noticed immediately. The comment sections filled with the same phrase over and over. That pause wasn't normal. People who've watched Joe for decades said they recognized that look. The one he gets when he's choosing how much truth to let out without detonating everything. Andrew's body language told its own story. Arms tighter, posture shifting, eyes darting like he wanted to rewind time 10 seconds. That's when the theories started metastasizing. Clips from months ago resurfaced overnight. Old interviews. Panel discussions. Conference footage where Charlie Kirk appears composed, polished, controlled, until the conversation drifts anywhere near family. That's when fans say the micro changes happen. The jaw tightens. The smile goes rigid. The answers shorten. Internet detectives began stitching together timelines, claiming the shift wasn't sudden at all. They argued it had been building quietly, invisibly, while everyone was distracted by louder controversies. Then came the first insider whispers. Anonymous accounts with nothing to gain posting cryptic lines like, "This has been known behind the scenes, and people have been warned not to bring it up." Screenshots of deleted tweets spread faster than the original clip. One claimed that staffers used to joke nervously about red zones, topics that were never to be mentioned on air. Another alleged that meetings would abruptly end if certain names came up. No proof. No confirmation. Just enough smoke to keep the fire alive. What really escalated things was how many people refused to deny anything. That silence became gasoline. Fans expected a quick dismissal, a joke, a clarification. Instead, there was nothing. No tweets. No statements. No damage control. In an era where celebrities respond to rumors within minutes, this quiet felt intentional, strategic, and terrifying. People started asking whether silence was protection or fear. Andrew Schulz didn't help when he tried to walk it back on his own show. His attempt at humor came out strained, forced. He laughed too quickly, over-explained too much, then dropped a sentence that instantly went viral. Some things aren't jokes when you've seen how people react behind closed doors. He didn't name names. He didn't have to. The clip was clipped, looped, and captioned within seconds. The internet heard what it wanted to hear. Then the social media chaos truly ignited. Twitter became a war zone of speculation, threads stretching hundreds of posts long. TikTok creators built entire series analyzing nothing but facial expressions and tone shifts. Reaction channels raced to upload emergency videos, each claiming a new angle or a missing detail. Even people who had never followed Charlie Kirk suddenly had opinions. Not about politics, about energy. About vibes. About something feeling deeply off. A particularly chilling rumor gained traction late one night when a small account posted, "There's a reason people don't stay long once they're inside." The post was vague, but replies flooded in claiming similar stories. Someone said a friend left quietly and signed an NDA. Another said a former collaborator warned them to stay clear. Again, no names. No receipts. Just patterns. And patterns are what the internet feeds on. Joe Rogan poured more fuel without ever touching the fire directly. On a later episode, in an entirely different conversation, he casually remarked, "When information gets filtered around someone too much, they stop knowing what's real." The clip spread instantly, paired side by side with the original moment. Fans swore it was a message. A breadcrumb. A warning disguised as philosophy. Meanwhile, Charlie's own appearances began to feel different to viewers. Comment sections filled with people saying he looked tired. Guarded. Like someone carrying weight they didn't fully understand. Some claimed his answers felt rehearsed. Others argued that he seemed unaware of the storm brewing around him, which only made things more unsettling. The narrative began to twist from accusation to concern. What if this wasn't about wrongdoing, but control? Then came the first alleged leak. A short, distorted audio clip surfaced on Telegram, only a few seconds long, featuring a sharp voice telling someone that conversation is not happening. The source was unverified. The quality was poor. But the timing was perfect. People argued endlessly about whether the voice matched anyone recognizable. Experts weighed in. Skeptics called it fake. Believers called it confirmation. The clip vanished hours later, but by then it had been downloaded, reposted, and dissected beyond repair. The most unsettling development wasn't the rumors. It was who started reacting. Comedians. Media figures. Influencers who usually avoid controversy began posting cryptic lines like, "This is bigger than people think," and "Sometimes the truth hides in plain sight." One well-known personality liked a comment that read, "He's not the one pulling the strings," then quickly disliked it. Screenshots made sure it didn't matter. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Fans claimed Within hours, quiet adjustments started happening across platforms. Videos disappeared. Threads went private. Creators who had been aggressively covering the story softened their language, or stopped posting altogether. Fans noticed. They always do. People started asking why certain breakdown videos were suddenly gone, why reaction channels were hedging, why once confident commentators were now speaking in riddles. Something had spooked them, and that fear was contagious. Then the second message leaked. This one wasn't meant for the public, but it didn't matter. Screenshots tore through Discord servers and Telegram chats before anyone could stop them. It claimed that the tension everyone was sensing wasn't about exposure, it was about containment. According to the message, the real issue wasn't that someone wanted something revealed. It was that someone was desperately trying to keep a very specific truth from ever reaching the person at the center of it all. That's when the narrative cracked open. Suddenly, fans weren't asking who was lying to the public. They were asking who might be lying to Charlie himself. Old footage was re-examined with a new lens. Moments that once looked like confidence now appeared scripted. Pauses that felt thoughtful now felt coached. Viewers started noticing how often conversations were redirected, how frequently aides stepped in, how tightly controlled access seemed to be. One viral TikTok pointed out that in multiple appearances, Charlie looked to the same off-camera spot before answering certain questions. The creator captioned it simply, "Why does he check before speaking?" Theories evolved fast. Some suggested there was a long-standing effort to manage what Charlie knew versus what he didn't. Others claimed there was a protective bubble around him that had slowly turned into a cage. Again, no proof. Just patterns. And patterns, once noticed, are impossible to unsee. Schulz unintentionally escalated things further during a stand-up set that wasn't even supposed to be controversial. In what sounded like an offhand remark, he joked about how the loudest person in the room is rarely the one with real power. The crowd laughed. The internet didn't. Clips spread instantly with captions claiming it was another veiled reference. Schulz's team reportedly asked fan accounts to stop tagging the joke with names. That request only made it worse. Then came the alleged confrontation. A well-connected podcast producer anonymously claimed that, weeks before the Rogan clip aired, there had been a heated exchange backstage at a private event. According to the story, a guest brought up a sensitive subject and was immediately shut down, not by Charlie, but by someone speaking on his behalf. The producer claimed the room went silent, and afterward, several attendees were warned not to discuss what happened. The post vanished within minutes. Screenshots did not. Joe Rogan, meanwhile, kept doing what Joe Rogan does best, saying just enough to terrify everyone paying attention. During a conversation about cult dynamics and information control, he dropped a line that detonated across social media. The most dangerous situations are when someone thinks they're being protected, but they're actually being isolated. He paused after saying it. Long enough for Andrew, sitting across from him, to stop nodding and stare. That stare became a meme. Then a symbol. Fans began compiling the looks moments where Andrew reacted not with jokes, but with concern. One compilation hit 5 million views overnight. The comments were brutal. That's not comedy shock. That's I know something shock. Andrew looks like he's already been warned. This feels like watching people dance around a truth they are scared to say. Behind the scenes, alleged insiders grew bolder. One claimed that multiple people had tried to bring certain information directly to Charlie in the past, only to be blocked. Another suggested that access had become increasingly restricted over the years, with messages filtered and meetings monitored. Whether true or not, the consistency of the claims was unsettling. Different sources. Same story. Then the social media chaos hit a new level. A hashtag began trending that wasn't accusatory, it was sympathetic. Variations of "does he know" flooded timelines. People weren't calling for cancellation. They were asking questions. Dangerous questions. The kind that make PR teams panic, because there's no clean way to answer them without opening doors you've kept locked for years. The most disturbing twist came when a former associate, someone who had vanished from public view long ago, resurfaced with a single comment under a viral clip. "This isn't about control. It's about prevention." No clarification. No follow-up. Just that sentence. The account went private shortly after. Fans interpreted it instantly. Prevention of what? Speculation spiraled into darker territory. Was there information about Charlie's past he'd never been told? Was there a revelation that could fundamentally alter how he sees himself, his career, his movement? Was the silence less about guilt and more about fear of psychological fallout? At this point, the story had moved beyond gossip and into something resembling a psychological thriller unfolding in real time. Even mainstream commentators started treading carefully. Phrases like "allegedly" and "if true" dominated coverage. No one wanted to be the one who crossed the line first. Because now, the risk wasn't wrong. It was right. Then, just when the frenzy hit its peak, everything went quiet again. No new leaks. No new comments. Just a vacuum. And in that vacuum, one final message surfaced from the same anonymous source who dropped the timestamp. This one was longer. Heavier. And it ended with a sentence that made even the most hardened drama followers pause. "You think the fallout will be public? It won't. The real explosion happens the moment he finds out." Attached was a promise of proof. Not yet released. Not shared. But imminent. And for the first time since this saga began, the fear wasn't about what the internet would do next. It was about what happens when the person at the center of it all finally learns the truth. By the time the third phase of this saga ignited, the internet wasn't chasing drama anymore. It was bracing for impact. Because that final message, the one promising that the real explosion wouldn't be public, but personal, rewired how everyone interpreted everything that came before it. Suddenly, the silence wasn't suspicious. It was strategic. The restraint wasn't denial. It was delay. And delay only ever means one thing. Someone is running out of time. The first sign that things were spiraling came from the reaction nobody expected. Not Joe. Not Andrew. Not even the anonymous insiders. It came from people who had absolutely nothing to gain by inserting themselves. A former event coordinator quietly posted, "I've watched this play out in real time. You're not ready." Deleted within minutes. Screenshots everywhere. A comedy booker replied to a fan comment with, "This is why some truths stay buried," then locked their account. A media consultant liked a post asking whether someone can be protected from their own history, then immediately deactivated. This wasn't noise anymore. This was coordination breaking down. Fans noticed that Charlie's appearances had stopped entirely. No live events. No new interviews. No casual updates. For someone whose presence was usually constant, the absence was deafening. Meanwhile, those close to him appeared tense in their own limited public moments. Short answers. Carefully neutral language. No smiles. Viewers began describing it as waiting room energy, the kind of stillness that only exists right before bad news lands. Joe Rogan, intentionally or not, cracked the pressure again. In a discussion about human psychology, he said, "If you build someone's world on a version of the truth, taking that away can destroy them." The clip went viral within minutes. The theories that followed were darker than anything before. No longer about power or control, but about knowledge. What someone knows. What they're allowed to know. And what happens when those two things don't match. Fans speculated wildly, some crossing lines, others pulling back in fear of being right. Because the most terrifying idea wasn't a scandal. It was a revelation. Then came the alleged files. A trusted commentary channel claimed they were contacted by the same anonymous source, the one who had been dropping breadcrumbs since the beginning. The message reportedly included screenshots, messages, and voice notes that could not be safely released without context. The creator didn't show them. Didn't describe them. Just said one thing: if these are real, this explains everything. The video ended abruptly. No outro. No monetization. Just a black screen. That silence hit harder than any accusation. Social media erupted again, but this time the tone had shifted. People weren't cheering. They weren't joking. They were anxious. Posts read like warnings instead of jokes. This feels wrong. I don't think this is entertainment anymore. Someone's life is about to change forever. Even the most aggressive drama accounts slowed down, suddenly aware that they might be watching a real psychological collapse approach in real time. The most unsettling development came when a private DM exchange leaked between two industry figures. One asked, "Does he know yet?" The response was chillingly simple: "No." And that's the problem. That line spread everywhere. The speculation reached a boiling point when a final anonymous statement surfaced, allegedly from someone who had tried to intervene years earlier. The message claimed that multiple attempts had been made to tell him, but each time, access was cut off. The message ended with a sentence that froze the entire conversation: when he finds out, it won't matter who controlled what. It will only matter who kept the truth from him. At that point, even skeptics went quiet. Because if any part of this was true, if there really was a foundational truth about Charlie's life, past, or identity that had been deliberately withheld, then this wasn't a scandal. It was a psychological earthquake waiting to happen. One that would shatter not just reputations, but relationships, trust, and self-perception. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the anonymous source went silent. No more messages. No more hints. No more timestamps. Accounts associated with the leaks vanished. The commentary channel that claimed to see the files stopped posting entirely. Joe and Andrew said nothing more. Complete radio silence. Which left the internet staring at one terrifying question. If the truth is real, and if it hasn't come out yet, then that means it's still sitting with someone right now, deciding when, or whether, to tell him. And whatever that truth is, when it finally reaches the person it was kept from, this story doesn't end with a tweet, or a clip, or an apology. It ends with a moment none of us will be able to unsee. Because once someone's entire reality shifts, there's no going back. Before you click away, you need to understand something very clearly. Stories like this don't slow down, they disappear and then re-emerge when it's already too late to catch up. What you just watched isn't the end of this saga. It's the calm before something massive breaks. And when it does, the people who were here early will be the only ones who understand how every piece fits together. Right now, this conversation is being shaped in real time. Clips are vanishing. Accounts are going silent. Insiders are backing away instead of leaning in. That only happens when the next reveal isn't speculation, it's confirmation. Missing the next chapter won't just mean missing drama. It means missing context. And once the narrative locks in, you don't get to rewind it. So if you're even slightly invested, if your instincts are telling you there's more under the surface, this is the moment you act. Hit like so this video doesn't get buried. Drop a comment with your theory, not because it's fun, but because these comment sections are where patterns start forming and dots start connecting. And subscribe with notifications on, because when the next update hits, it won't wait for you. The people who show up late will only see the explosion. The people who stay now will understand the fuse. And trust me, whatever comes next is going to make everything you just heard feel like the warning shot.